Guys, welcome. What is back? SDHO. How are you doing? We've got a good show. And, yeah, we're gonna be in Wavetable again, and we're probably gonna be doing lots of Wavetable from here on out. And today, it won't be a Surf That Wavetable, because even though we will be using Wavetable and we'll definitely be surfing, we're actually going to focus more on something that I never do. And I almost feel like if you were to, let's just say, learn Wavetable synthesis in Wavetable and build up your knowledge, at a certain point, you would probably say, and depending on what kind of music you make, of course, but you would say, you know, I'm really good with the envelopes and routing them to different things and getting my sound correct and then having the ability to filter and sculpt it. But what if I wanted to modulate it? Not just, you know, moving around these different nice shapes that we got here, you know, modulating this, you know, going all the way up and down, or have an LFO be moving it constantly. What if you wanted a crazy envelope, like, to give you an idea? And this is actually something we're going to touch on at the end. But this device Shaper. So it's like, you know, what if instead of like a regular envelope, I, you know, with like it's a text sustain delete ADSR, what if I wanted an envelope like this? You know what I mean? And some of you might be like, oh, that's kind of like making me think of like clip modulation, you know? And like that's actually what we will be doing today, and allowing us to basically create incredibly complex envelopes and almost like merging an envelope and a LFO together, because the LFO, it cycles it. So if you take a look at this weird envelope here, if I click map and map it to, let's say, the oscillator 1 position, look at it. And, you know, this is just looping. So it's basically like a very unique, and if you think about it, clip modulation is the same thing, because like this is, pretend this is like 1 bar. What's going to happen after your loop, you know, gets to 1 bar? It's just going to start over. You know what I mean? So it's like, how would you get, it's like if you, because like that's what I was asking. And like you hear it all the time in like, you know, more like EDM dance kind of music that's like very heavily modulated bass lines and synths and stuff like that. And in a lot of these programs, and like you can kind of tell like when you're hearing that Wavetable synthesizer sound. And just so you know, when you open up Wavetable, and we're gonna start with this FM harmonics. I found it and I felt it was really good for this example. But when you open it up, you got your basics here on the left. And then within them, there's all of these different wavetables. And it starts off like this. And you hit a note, can move through the
You guys can own SDHO 66, the thumbnail. You can also purchase any of these other thumbnails. You will be verified on the blockchain that you own that artwork, no one else. Exclusive. I create these thumbnails in Blender, a 3D computer graphics application. And this is a little look inside the Blender project.
If you want or don't want, maybe you're like, hey, just want a square wave. Cool. But anyways, under basics, I found this one I really liked, and it's really good for this example. And you'll see why, this FM harmonics. So right now you can see it's kind of like a sine wave, but because it's not quite, it's going to have some upper order harmonics. So let's throw a spectrum on chia. It's probably the longest I've gone in a while without saying chia. Chia. So let's see. See how we got some harmonics, and as we move up, let's lower it. So that's what we're gonna. And so what we're going to do is I want to modulate something with like crazy envelopes, just sort of like give it that like crazy dubsteppy, bro steppy sound. So when I hear like modulated parts like that, I immediately think of like wavetable synthesis, because there's like so many different like, yeah, and you'll find that like some of these are better than others to do what we like want to do, you know, like it's like those really crazy like modulated sounds. Like this one would be a little bit different because it kind of sounds the same. So this works better for something that has like a duller and then a brighter sound, so you can kind of like, you know, just like smash between the two to get these like really like dynamic performances. Whereas you'll find some wavetables are kind of like this, where they're kind of just really good if you just like scroll through them, like this one. And that one sounds kind of good. Either way, it doesn't really matter. But like, yeah, play along. And just to start with this, I'm going to do FM harmonics because I really liked it. So one thing is I want to call your attention to before we open up and do the clip modulation or clip automation, as we'll see. And that's all based on your preference. I can explain that as well. And if this seems like I'm giving too much information, sorry, because like the me that was watching Ableton tutorials wanted to find channels like this where I knew they would tell me something deeper and explain it deeper than what I was able to get on your typical channel. So that's why I'm just more niched. If you don't like it, you probably wouldn't be watching this, especially after 7 minutes of this. So one thing I'm going to do is, I don't want to start here because I think it's too sine wavy. I like that it gets crazy like that. So that's when you can really go into this warp down here and change it a little bit. Just a little bit more, because I want it to have a little bit more grit, and then I still have my... You can play with the fold if it... Because I want it to be able to go from dull to really bright. So what we're going to do now is we're going to double click, and we don't really need to do too much for this. First of all, I want to see where I'm playing. I'm playing like a C3. And I'm just going to draw in like a little pattern here. It really doesn't matter. And I'm not even going to worry about playing any other notes because I'm not even going to worry about like playing other pitches, I guess I should say, because we can do that later. And when you have this heavy modulation, it almost confuses and tricks your ears to thinking that like you're playing a lot of different notes because it'll like sound so differently. So this is what it sounds like just normal. And again, it doesn't matter what it sounds like. Boring. But now let's go over here and click into the modulation. And I'm gonna highlight this 16th note. I'm gonna right click and I wanna start with like a ramp down. See what I mean? I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna copy envelope and I'm gonna put it right here and I'm gonna paste. And I'm gonna go into the pen tool and like just move this up. Let's see. Again, this I'm just going off of what like sounds good. Like that sounded kind of interesting. Maybe I'll... Maybe let's change this last one. Maybe like step it down like this. Now, isn't that kind of like what we were, and like look at it right here. Opening up the filter, didn't even know it was closed. So isn't that much different than this kind of like an envelope here? That like just like has like 3 parts. It's kind of like that shaper, right? Yeah, you know? like it just, this is almost like a simplified version of, and if you get off of this, you can just click right here and find it, but you could also do only show adjusted volumes. So you might have learned, or you might have seen that this may look a little bit different to you. Normally we have this like, normally it was always just this, like this clip modulation, you know what I mean? And then you would route that and see how it has these percentages. Sort of like the annoying thing about this was that, and this is how it always was. So typically, like, we're in session mode right now, which I'm sure you know. We're in a clip right now, and this blue envelope you see is clip modulation. It used to only be that. You didn't have this automation up here, and I think that might be new for Ableton Live 11.1 or 11.2 or 11.3. I think it got added after the initial 11 thing, but they didn't have automation here. Why? Because automation is what you did here on the timeline or on the arrangement page. You know, this is where you put your stuff when you want to take all of those clips, arrange them on the timeline, and then export your song, you know, or just work on your song on the timeline until you finally finish it, export it, and then upload it and share it wherever you want to do. And so this clip modulation allowed you to be, you know, let's say having all of these, you know, like different clips, right? Like the same pattern, perhaps, maybe even a different pattern, whatever you want. Let's pretend it was the same pattern, right? Or like maybe in part 2, I want to go in here and push Command A to highlight everything, delete the envelope, and then do like a completely different envelope. So I've got the same patterns, but I've got these different envelopes I can go between. Now, where the so like where this modulation, this clip modulation comes in, is it says, you know, okay, what are you modulating? Okay, we're modulating this oscillator 1 position. So it will change based on where this is, you know, because you might want to, let's say, in the arrangement page, have all those different clips with their own unique clip modulation, but maybe you want to automate the oscillator 1 position value over time on the timeline, and then you could have those clip modulations respond dynamically. And I'll show you what I mean. We're not going to get into the weeds too much with that, because like that's not what this is about. And I don't even produce music this way. I don't make like, you know, like heavy modulated bass and synth music. I'm doing mostly like ambient, like big drones. So I'm doing more like, you know, LFOs and stuff versus like all sorts of crazy envelopes. So for instance, like take a look at, and I'm going to go into here because I'm going to play number, so this is what our first one, never mind. So I'm going to play this clip 2, and we're going to click modulation, and I don't know what this is going to sound like. It doesn't even matter. In fact, I'll actually just make it sound a little bit different because I like these like ramp ups, you know, like whoop whoop. Command Z to go back. I don't like when it does that. Let's see what this sounds like. If you hold Command, you can do like a finer tune one so it won't snap to the grid. So let's just sound what this modulation sounds like, and I'll just show you this just so you kind of know the difference. Take a look. See this blue line going up and down? Notice how it changes when I move this. So you might like this just so you can see what kind of other different good sounds you get. But look at the blue one. That's corresponding to this and these percentages. So you can modulate this now. You can go into automation. See, now we've got them both moving. I wonder if I can just move it all down. I hate how it does that. Don't drag that far from me. That sounds better. And so before, and literally, I think that was like only like a matter of like 11.3, which is basically what this is. It was only just this modulation. And so like some people would go into the arrangement page, you know, like draw a clip in here, which by the way, I can't really do anything in arrangement page because I have to click this orange button, which will actually delete this, which is, oh, look at those wonderful caterpillars. Actually, caterpillars creep me out in real life. I must have had a bad experience when I was younger. So in any event, and like filter's a good one to do with that. So if I do that, it'll stop recording, but you would go in there and then you could use the clip, you could use the automation in here. You know what I mean? But you actually couldn't really do it in here. You didn't have these two options. It just looked like this. And that would have been fine. You would have just had to be very knowledgeable to know like, okay, well, so for instance, we'll go into number 3 and I'll show you. So I'm going to go into here, just null this out, even though it doesn't really matter. You can just Command A to highlight everything. I'm assuming Control A on a PC. Delete. Oh, okay, that's weird. Whoa. Delete. So now you go into this modulation, and if you notice, it's like, now in fact, I'll just delete all of this too. So you'll notice this line, right? And if you have it at like 0%, you would just have to be very mindful because you might, if like back in the day, you would realize that you might not be able to automate or modulate the full range. So you would have to like come in and I'm going to do the edit value to get it 0%. And you would, oh God, I hate when it does that. You would have to be like, okay, so 0%, right? So I can only go up to 50%, you know, and then only go down minus 50%. So if I had this thing started like down here, take a look at how this looks and how different. So we can't ever really go down like 15% or whatever. Hold on, I just want to make this like sound pretty cool. Sorry, I don't want it to end there. I want it to go up. Yeah, right? Kind of like... So take a look at this. So if I have it started down here, it will never go like lower, right? Like it'll never go lower than this 0. So now look at... So now it's doing the full range, especially if I put it at 50. Take a look. So you would have had to have been mindful, because if you just didn't even pay attention and you had it down here, you would have never known. Or maybe you would know, but like only if you do a lot of this clip modulation, silly. Smash a like. So and so it allows you to like So back to clip 1, and I'm just going to Command A all of this, delete it, doesn't matter, because I would just rather do automation. So sorry for that long detour. And by the way, this was our beginning one. And so right with this, you might say, well, won't that do the same thing? No. This says that it's going to start at 100%, which is all the way up. And I might as well play this, so I think it'll like... So I'm just going to delete these just because I don't want them to interfere. For some reason, I think it's like holding on to certain modulations. Okay, so on the automation, so right here it starts at 100%. So where's 100%? 100% is all the way up here. See it? See, like it says 99, 0%. So we could have it here if we wanted. Like maybe we're like doing something, but as soon as we launch this clip, it's just going to jack it up to here because that's where we start. We start up here, and then it'll slope all the way down to 0. It'll then play this little guy right here. And let's draw a breakpoint in here. And I'm going to hold Option to just do that. Otherwise, it'll snap it to one of these grid lines. So, like, take a look. It'll start high, swoop low, and no matter where. And it doesn't even have to be up high, right? It doesn't matter where it is. That's why automation's probably going to be more your call, or clip automation. Is probably going to be more your call, because it'll just give you more flexibility. But like the clip modulation thing with like the blue one, it just allows you to do other things, and it allows you to then take things in the arrange page and automate something long over time, maybe that same parameter, so it like opens up and it keeps like those modulations. So it was kind of more designed for that, but then I think Ableton just realized that they should give you this ability. So this is basically like a crazy psychedelic LFO, or excuse me, an LFO and envelope mixed, because this thing is a loop, so it's going to loop over. So if you take a look at these envelopes, like this is a pretty basic envelope. It's like 1, 2, and like done, you know, in a sustain phase, which is really like where does the decay stain? So it's almost like you've got like two things. And if you want to do crazy heavy modulated stuff, you know, you can then draw this in, which think about this envelope, which it really is this envelope, except because it's being looped as like everything in this computer music, electronic music world. So it gets looped. So it's basically like an envelope and an LFO together. Look no further than here. What is this? You know what I mean? Like take a look at this thing. Like let's play our thing and let's map this to the filter. So this is now modulating the filter. And look, you got these other presets. No, maybe I want that to go the other way, so I'll reverse these. And then you can go over here and you can be like, oh, let's play with it. It is chaos. Chaos Lottie is back. Chaos Lady for the president. Chaos Lady for life. Smash the like or I crush him. Chaos Lady, peace out. Delete it. So see that? Sounds good. So yeah, so I'm actually going to, before we get going right here, I'm going to insert another MIDI track. Definitely not going to close this one because I like it. I can just leave it open. Doesn't even matter right here. And now we're going to go to this MIDI track and we're going to put our best friend in the world that would never let us down and would never betray us, the wavetable. By the way, how are you guys doing? Have you escaped the Matrix? That's a running joke here. Smash a like, subscribe, buy an NFT. NFT is my artwork, the thumbnails. I'm a 3D artist, digital artist, whatever. I've started making some SDHOs where I get into that stuff. And it's cool because if you ever had an interest, the 3D computer graphics program that I use, Blender, it's free. It's open source, free, and it's got a huge community. All kinds of great stuff, and it would definitely be a cool thing to get up on. Definitely a learning curve, but you'll have endless YouTube videos on it from like all kinds of people, less so with the other products, and it's very robust. So yeah. So next up is, when does that work well and when does it work good? When do you get that crazy wow? It's when you're going from, when you know at the bottom it's going to be like a duller sound, at the top it's going to be brighter. So like this first one, basic shapes, well, you're damn right there. And as you go up, but then you can come across other ones like so that would be a good one. And then you'll come across ones like this. So yeah, that does do it when you do that, you know. But like that, when I see that wavetable, I wouldn't be doing heavy modulation with it. What I would be doing is I would probably be doing heavy modulation with these little warp parameters down here. In fact, let's do that. But for this, I would just like to have like a really good, I would like to have like, for this, I would rather just come into like LFO. In fact, I actually like that really weird envelope, LFO that Shaper gave us. Let's go in there. That kind of like leaf looking one that it had. In fact, I've like never really used Shaper. Let's drag it over here. Let's drag it. It doesn't really matter where you drag it. So like this kind of cool looking guy. So like, look, it's just an LFO, right? You know, I mean, let's map this to here. But much slower, much slower. First of all, we gotta lower this. This is... So yeah, like clever little interesting LFOs, and you can always like go in there and like move them around and stuff. Like, oh, maybe I want it to be like this, you know. And oh, we go to grid, so then we can, you know, maybe make it start here and then go down to here, and then maybe it'll like do this and then this before going back up. And maybe what I want to do is not put it on oscillator 1 position, but maybe I want to put it on Z filter. So now I got this cool, interesting envelope. Maybe it's like, how do I get rid of that? How do I delete this? How do I delete this guy? You're not able to delete it? Whatever, it doesn't matter. Actually, no, wait, hold on. There's an X right here. Okay, whatever. Ooh! So like when it gets to the top, the filter's being at the top, so it's good. And let's... So for this, I would rather just come get a regular LFO and go to the matrix. But by the way, oscillator 1 in position. Maybe like do something more unique with the LFO. And then move this around. It's like hypnotic now. Give me a chord. Just playing the keyboard. I'm getting lucky. I'm getting lucky. It was all luck. It was all luck. You did not earn it. It was all luck. Actually, I've been doing this for 10 years, so I think I have earned it. But in any event, let me know that I've earned it by purchasing an NFT and subscribing. Super fun stuff. And you're the only one that owns it. You know what I mean? So like no one else can own it. So you can be like, hey mate, I bought the thumbnail as an NFT of SDHO 53. Everyone knows that was the one where he officially lost his mumbly jumblies. So like now people want to like say, hey, I know you has got it, but like I want it. And then you can do it. Anyways, so that was fun. We covered some pretty important things. I didn't want to call that like a surf that wavetable or anything, because I really wanted to focus more on clip modulation, which is something I never do. I never do because like I don't make that, and like I don't make that like kind of stuff. Like I'll be honest, I'm actually kind of interested to like apply that sort of like crazy clip modulation. But when you, and like don't get me wrong, like I've done that so many times across, like I've been doing this for 10 years. So like, I mean, when I finish music, you got on the timeline, like you'll automate certain parameters over time because you need parameters to change as you go through like, you know, intro, middle, end of a song. But then like you'll also want to have specific like filter openings and other interesting modulations in all these like different clips here, which you'll then add to the arrangement. So a lot of really cool possibilities. To be honest with you, it almost seems like it's more interesting to use that blue clip modulation and then have the automation doing its own thing too. So then they like operate in like symbiosis with each other, like they move like lockstep or whatever. So hope you enjoyed that. I think we're gonna do a flip that sample again. I may just chill. I might do like a digital art one. Or I'll just wait for it to come to me, because I had no idea I would do this, because again, I don't do clip modulation stuff. And then one day I was like, I think I watched some video that was like the rise and fall and rise again of Skrillex, and it was very interesting. You know, he made all those crazy like robot-y modulation, insane stuff, very like trendy back in the day when people just weren't really like hearing it. And I remember like it was like showing his progression from like screamo dude to like more electronic-y, like on his own thing. And then I heard this like bass pattern in like on like a song I just heard, and it was like a very early one, like before he released most of his albums, and like the bass just sounded so like juicy, like and like but like a good but you know what I mean, like forgive me if I can't do that with my mouth, but it sounded so like juicy and so like dancey, and I thought about it and I'm like, well, what kind of an envelope does he have on his wavetable synthesizer? And I was like, what kind of then like LFO? And I'm like, because I'm thinking about this in my head as a sound design guy. I'm like, oh yeah, he's in the clip modulation doing all of that crap, you know what I mean? And then I was like, holy shit, like, is that true? You know, and so then and it was great because I haven't really been that excited to do Ableton a whole lot, other than to like come on and like hang out with you guys, which I don't really do that much. I'm doing more of like the 3D computer graphics art, and then more of like the, you know, processing it and composite. Anyways, and so I was like, yeah, of course. And that's like, yeah, and so you can do that really crazy in like FM. And yeah, so I thought that was like really cool. Thought that was a really good idea. And it was good because it's something we haven't done in a while. We've definitely done clip modulation before, but like I've never really been like that enthused to do it. And I felt this was a good thing, especially because we've been on like a really good wavetable kit. Because I almost don't even know what else I'm gonna use, because I've realized just how powerful that is. So smash a like, hope you're doing well. Yeah, I don't know when I'm gonna be back. It might be like a digital art hangout, so take care.